I'm standing in front of our smaller oven. It's off right now. The doors are open. I've got an empty cart in there. And so this is what it would look like if the doors are open. This is our 10 by 10 by 25. This is the one that we mainly dry off in, but we can also cure in it too. Okay, so I've got a glove on here. Let's go see how it goes all the way up to like almost my shoulder. Bright blue, it's a welding glove. If we're going in an oven to change a cart out, which happens a lot, usually Chauncey's the one doing that because he's the one that's running the floor and running the flow and making sure everything is where it's supposed to be. So he's usually pulling carts in and out of the oven. You always need to assume that carts are hot anywhere in the shop because most of the time they've been in the dry off or they've been in the cure oven, and then when they come out, then they're cooling down essentially. So obviously, when a cart is in the oven, if it's running at 400 degrees, that cart's about 400 degrees when it's ready to come out of the oven. So we put on our gloves, walk in there, and then pull the cart out. Oven's off right now, doors are open. This is an empty cart. Normally there would be parts on here. We'd just grab onto it by hand. We would have gloves on both hands, and then we're gonna pull it out. The main reason why we like these really long gloves that it's like coming all the way up to my shoulder is because the inside of this oven, it's hot, okay? So everywhere inside this oven is basically 400 degrees. So when you're reaching inside here to grab this cart, if the wheel catches on something or turns weird and kind of rolls towards the wall, then your arm could lay up against the wall here, but it's fine because we've got this long glove on. So now your forearm isn't burnt, your elbow isn't burnt. Same thing when you're coming out of the opening here. When we get close to the opening, that cart is 8 foot wide, the opening's 10 foot wide. If the doors aren't fully open, it gets a little bit tight, or if there's a part hanging outside the cart, it gets tight. You might be pulling it out a little bit crooked or at an angle, and so when you're doing that, you might not realize it, but you're kind of inside this door and you're pulling past, and all of a sudden your elbow could catch right here, or your forearm. If you've got the long glove on, it's no big deal because then you're just hitting the glove up against the side of the oven and you're not burning yourself. In the past, we had still welding gloves, they just weren't quite as long, and so your elbow would kind of stick out, and sometimes you'd catch your elbow right on the wall or something, and that would hurt and it'd burn you. So that's why we wear the really long gloves, because the main thing that we're trying to do is to make sure that we don't burn ourselves when we're going in and out of the oven. We try to not have a lot of people going in and out of the oven. Chauncey's the main one. Our main sprayer, Wills, he goes in and out of the oven quite a bit because he's got to get carts out of his way, and once he's sprayed them, he needs to get them in and get them cured. But the fewer people that are in the oven, the better, just because, it's definitely a safety issue. It's really hot. You got to be paying attention to what you're doing. You got to make sure that you have your gloves on. I always tell everybody, even if your cart is cold and you're pushing the cart in, still put the gloves on because you never know when you're going to brush up against the side of the oven, and then you'd be burning yourself if you didn't have gloves on. The oven's really simple, not a lot going on. Mainly, we're just opening the doors, pulling carts in and out. You just have to really respect the heat, and as long as you have your gloves on and you're paying attention, everything goes just fine.